great debut, right? Baby, look, nice job, Krista. You made it. I mean, you could come at 11 o'clock and we'd be like, yes. That's awesome. How was it getting out the door today? Good. Okay, cool. And then, I'm trying to play on his name.
Oh, sorry, it's Peter.
Peter, I was going to say Peter.
I haven't said that for you before.
She's like, I get it. And that just like seared into my mind. And she said, I was there, and I promise you in 6 weeks, everything will be better and you will survive. And I was like, oh, really? Like it was so, oh my goodness. So from that moment on, it was like, I needed this. And the thing, so now that I have 3 girls, I'm the girl tribe. I have 975, my 9-year-old is going to turn 10 next month, which is nuts. So I'm just barely a step ahead of you guys. And I cannot believe the things that I know and the things that come out of my mouth about parenting from what I learned here. And so often with friends that I meet that have never been here, and even older parents, I'll say something and they say, like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I spent a decade going to the home group where I had professionals standing up here teaching me about what it means to be a mom, a parent in general, a woman, how to rise to the person that I was made to be. And I just always say, well, it's home group. Like, you just got to go home group. So I love this group. I think that what this group is doing is making a huge impact in our city. Moms, you guys know, I mean, you do a ton, and your job is so important. And it's really isolating. Even before COVID, it was isolating. It's lonely. And when you come here, you breathe life into other moms' lives, and you make a space for other moms to come here. And so invite your friends. You know, even I know it's hot, I suck at it, but I invite people all the time, and probably 1 out of 10 come, and then they come and they stay. So invite your friends, like, especially on COVID, we need this, but it really, I mean, what you guys are doing in our city just by coming and being part of this, it makes a huge impact. So anyways, I love home. I love what it's about. So before I even start talking about our topic today, I just want to, get rid of any thought of you thinking that because I'm up here, I have it all together. Like, I have it all figured out, and I'm perfect, and I've arrived, and now I get to talk up here. Like, I am in it with you guys. Being a mom is full. It takes everything in you. Some of you might be in here and you're like, I'm tired. I feel strung out. My mind, my heart, my physical body, my calendar, my time, it's full. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And maybe just by hearing this topic might just make make you nervous? Like, is she gonna make me feel like even more of a failure than I already feel that I am? And so I just want you to know that I'm in it with you. My life is a mess as well. I'm trying to figure this out as well. And this class is not here to add anything new to your already full schedule. And I'm not here to bombard you with more. What we're going to do in this class today is we're going to just take a moment to step out of life and look at our life. Look at how we spend our day in and day out time. We're going to look at it, and we're going to just rearrange what you're already doing to infuse your days with more energy, more purpose, and more growth. So that's all we're going to do today. So it's exciting. So the title is Being Present with Your Time, and I love this title because it's a great way to say that I want to be a mom, I want to be a woman that is fully engaged in whatever I'm doing. I want to be all there. The opposite is when we're doing something and our mind is somewhere else. Maybe our mind is just tired, and he just can't be there. Or it's thinking about that to-do list that just is so overwhelming, or anxiety or whatever. And it takes us out of the beauty of the moment and we miss it. And so we want to be women that are present with our time. And so I want to hear from you guys just really quick. Just shout out from your seat. What is it like when you're present with your time? Or, in those moments, like, what does it feel like, or where's your heart at? So just kind of call out what it might be like when you are present with your time. No one knows what it's like. I'm so glad you guys are here today. No, I know. You've had moments. What does it feel like when you're present?
Feeling connected to the people that you love.
Mm-hmm. Connected to people you love, absolutely.
Peaceful.
Yes. Peaceful.
Yeah, calm my house.
Calm
The
house.
kids do not do that. I'm really present with their time and I'm like intentional being with them. They're all angels at that point because they know that.
It's so true. It just changes the air, right? Even your kids can feel it. Yeah, it's so true.
I think it makes it easier too, because when you're overwhelmed and you're stressed, and then it feels so much harder to like deal with something. But when you're like, oh, I have a small baby, they are going to cry, and it's like this intentional perspective of like being with your child, and it's like, oh, this is easy. It's easy that they're crying. It's easier that they're fussy because I'm expecting this. I'm not like stressed out trying to figure something out. And
Oh my, that was fantastic. You should get up here and teach on that. That's absolutely true. Yeah, it flips the script, right? This is what this child's supposed to be doing. They're not trying to take anything from me. They're supposed to be crying. They're supposed to be engaging in this way. Toddlers are supposed to dump everything out on the floor. Like, that's just what they were made to do. So that's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So in order for us to be able to realize that we're all trying to be better at being present with our time, and that all of us are coming from this spot of maybe hardship or life is just crazy right now, I want you to just turn and look at everyone at your table. And I know this is silly. I have a weird something going on, huh? Maybe I'll hold it like this one. I want to look at everyone at your table, and I want you to say, repeat after me, I get it, girl. Just say it, I get it, girl. My life is a mess too. Let's work this out together. Right? There you go. Oh man, I feel so much better now. Let me know if I just need to chuck this to the side. I can't. Okay. All right. So a little bit more about me. Probably about 6 years ago, I started, through my involvement home, I started wanting to be better at being present with my time. And so I started putting some things into practice, and those are some things that I'm going to teach about today. And it was really great. But then probably 3 years ago, once the ball kind of got rolling in that, I kind of like buckled down. I'm like, I'm going to take this seriously, and I'm really going to do this. I'm going to live it out. And it has changed me completely. It has changed my mindset for how I live my days. So before, I was hurry sick. I was discontent. I was feeling a ton of guilt that I wasn't feeling like I was living up to my potential as a mom. I felt like my role as a wife, I just sucked at it, and I just was always tired, never felt done, rolling to the next. thing and felt like I wasn't producing anything. And then from putting these things into practice, I now feel like, for the most part, I'm a person of joy, of peace, of deep contentment, and I can be fully engaged in whatever I'm doing. And I feel like I am living the best life. There's so many times I've been saying over the last couple of years, I feel like I could die today, and I would be so okay with that. And so I'm excited to teach you guys this. So we're going to work through some steps. And if you've taken a class from me before, I love to start broad, big picture, kind of that overarching why do we want to do this, and then we're just going to funnel down to get a little more narrow until we talk about the nitty-gritty of like how this actually looks like, boots on the ground, what you do in your daily life. So you have that packet in front of you. We're going to work through this packet together. And on the top, I put just right there the goal of the class, just in case you forget, this is what we're here for. And then that part at the top, that space for you to just take notes. And then we're going to work through this packet together. Okay, so first thing, let's start big picture. Why should I prioritize my time? Or why is prioritizing my time important in order to be present with my time? And here is why we should take this seriously. Because life happens. It's going. Like, you cannot control it. We are all moving towards something. We are all on this journey. And each journey is unique. Each one has a different purpose. But we're all moving somewhere. And there's two ways that you can go about doing your life. One way is to let life take you wherever it wants to take you, and you just float along with it. And the other way is where you curate your life in such a way where you put it in the direction that you want it to go in. And in one way, this person might wake up towards the middle or end of their life, and they'll say, how did I get here? I thought that I would be doing this, or be doing that, or like whatever, you fill in the blank, but I never thought I'd get this far off track. How did I get here? And this off-track feeling can happen when we allow people or circumstances or bosses or family or expectations, and we allow all of these things that are vying for our time and attention, and we allow them to take hold of our daily time. These people, these things, these circumstances, they have a path as well. They have an agenda, and they'll take anyone else's time that they can to make their agenda work. And so if the world around us, if we keep it unchecked, it is a great big time and energy suck. Like, they'll just suck out of whoever they can. But the other way to look at your life is when you take the reins on your life and you tell it where you want it to go. And people that do this, they wake up one day and they say, how did I get here? I thought that my life would never be this full, this rich, this purposeful, this meaningful, whatever you would want to say there. I just took one step at a time, and I never thought that I would get this far. And Chris and I went to a leadership conference, a women's leadership conference in Nashville, and we heard this story over and over again by these ladies that were standing on a stage with thousands of women listening, and people would say, how did you get there? And they said over and over again, I don't know, I just took one step at a time, and here I am. And so we saw that play out. So the clearest way that I've heard this concept spelled out is by Stephen Covey. He's a time management and leadership expert. And he says that our life is like a compass and a clock. And when these two align, this is when we have the most potential to flourish. And so your compass is the direction that you choose for your life to go in. So this is like that big picture, more philosophical way to see your life. Your compass is your guide for your journey. And it's also your filter for making those big life decisions, like with your finances, your family, your relationships, maybe your job or your education. And then your clock is your boots on the ground, how you actually spend your time, how you calendar and what you do with your time. And your compass sets your clock in motion. So whatever your compass says, that's in general how you choose to spend your time during the day. And when these align, like I said, this is when we can best flourish. And we can become that woman that is present with our time, with whatever we're doing. So I would love today to take compass and our clock. And we could be that woman, that mom that wakes up out of the fog of having young kids. Anyone else in fog? Yeah, you wake up from having young kids, maybe in 5 or 10 years or so, and you can say, man, that was hard. That sucked. But I never imagined that I would be this far. I just took one step at a time, and this is amazing. So can we all say yes, that we want that? Maybe some of you are like, yes, I want that. And what's even better is when we are being present with our time, like what was said over here, our kids flourish as well. When we put this into action, they're watching, they're feeling it. Our husbands or our partners or whoever you're parenting with, they feel it too. And so it in general sends your family into this direction of flourishing. But some of you might be thinking like, I don't know, Meagan, like, you have not met my kid. Or, man, my partner does this, or you haven't met my mother-in-law. And like, you're like, girl, like, that sounds amazing, but have you seen my life? And so, I get it. Life is hard. It is hard for all of us. Like, our life is full of brokenness, hardship, challenges. It's the same for all of us. But the thing is, you can choose how you face it all. And that's what we're kind of talking about today. The parts that we can take charge of. So I want to be a woman and a mother that faces life with wise intentionality, and I'm going to be the one that points my compass. And that's the part that I can take charge of. And so here we go. Are you guys ready for this? We're going to look at the same concept in a little bit different way. And this is an ancient way that people have been seeing life. And it's the trellis and the vine concept. And I love this. It just brings so much peace to my life. So if you think about the front porch of a house, there's a trellis that grows and there's a vine that grows over it. Have you guys seen those houses in Corvallis that have the wisteria growing over it? Like, that is so beautiful and amazing. So the trellis is the compass in your life. That's the direction that it's taking the vine. You are the vine. Your life is the vine. And the vine weaves in and out of the trellis. And even when the vine grows way out, it always comes back to that trellis. And so I think this is so awesome because in life we kind of can struggle and we can make mistakes and we can miss the mark, or life just happens to us and we weave in and out. But in general, that vine follows that trellis. And eventually it covers the whole patio. And it's beautiful and it's majestic and people can enjoy life under it. And so I love seeing life like this. And so as a mom, especially with young kids with tons of variables around you, it's nice to see life like this. Like, you're just weaving in and out, but in general, you're setting your life in a direction that you are putting into motion, just like that vine. So at this point, I would love to sit down with each of you and talk about your trellis and your compass in your life. I think that it's one of the most important things in your life. It gives your everyday purpose and direction, and I just love talking about things with people like this. But I would just encourage you to let this ruminate throughout your mind over the next few weeks. Think about it. Talk to people that love you. Maybe start writing a little about it. But I would encourage you to figure it out. It's worth the sweat. It's worth the struggle. And if you're married or you're parenting with someone else, this is something that would be really important to decide on together, because when those are most aligned, then you have higher chances of flourishing in that. But for in my life, as I've sat on this and thought about this, the trellis and compass that I've decided to follow is the tried and true path that I've seen Jesus walk in my life. Like, he paved this out for me. And as I've looked through history and I have seen the news and I've just watched people's life unfold before me, this is the path that makes the most sense to my life. And I don't really want to waste my time here on earth, so I wanted to pick a path that has been tried out, it's true, it stood the test of time. So for me, that's what it looks like in my life. And so So in my family, when we say, okay, well, what does this path of Jesus look like? He says that our lives need to be woven with the fabric of love. So in my family, our compass is one of love. And so we try to, and for the most part, we are other-centered. That means whenever my family decides to do something, we are trying to be 100% for people. And so this affects how we arrange our home, our finances, our plans for retirement, our extracurriculars for our kids. All of this has this thread of love in it. Like, how can this be best used to love others? And so, for an example, what this would look like, I decided to coach soccer for one of my daughters. And yes, I love soccer and I want to coach soccer, but I'm not only there to teach the girls how to run and stretch and put their hair in a ponytail and score goals or whatever, but I'm there to love my players. I want to be a positive influence. I want to inspire them. I want to mentor them to be courageous young women and to live big. And so that's more of my posture when I'm there. So I hope that makes sense. I want to just give you a moment to just, as I've been talking, if there's been something that's been kind of stirring in you with like, yeah, this is something that's a big value or important in my life, I just want to give you a moment to jot that down. So go ahead and just turn to that piece of paper and just write down any thoughts that have been coming to mind. All right, does anyone have any just initial questions about this kind of like big picture compass? Controls idea?
Can you give ideas?
Ideas? Yeah, I can give ideas. I had a whole list of them here and I forgot to tell you. So maybe for you, your trellis could be to serve others. I remember Rosie, who used to come in home group, she had that as her mission statement for her family, and she said it all the time. Enough that I remember it, which is amazing. But yeah, their family was a family of service. And so that's what they did. They served others. It might be to bring joy and peace. Maybe you have a more like artistic focused family, so you're like, we just bring art to the world. Maybe it's to educate others. Maybe you're just like, man, I feel like education to the world would just be so much better. Maybe it's just to make the world a better place. Wherever you're at and your family's at, you just want to make it better for others, whether that's verbally encouraging someone, cleaning, making something more beautiful, infusing things with life. Those are some ideas. Is that helpful? All right, is my volume okay? I feel like I'm blasting you guys. No? Okay, good. I just don't want to hurt anyone's ears. Okay, so we're going to take the next step. This is like a big step moving more towards how. So that was like big picture. This is why it's important, and this is more of the how. So let's start looking at the things that we do want to prioritize in our life. These are like super important to us, and we want to put them into our calendar. So first thing that I want you to do is on that front piece of paper, it says the most important areas of my life. And I want you to write those down. For the most part, don't think deep about this, this is really simple. These are going to be roles that you hold in your life, or positions. So this is super simple. This is like mom, wife, house manager, maybe you're an employee or an employer, you're a friend, hopefully, because you come to home group. You're a daughter, you have relationships, you those down. And don't think too hard about it. I mean, it's just like, put food on the table. That's a rule that I do. That's important. My family needs to eat. So, Stephen Covey, along with some other time management experts, he says that you can't hold more than 7 of these roles in your life, or else your life will run off the tracks. So, it's a good thing to think about as you're writing these down and thinking about them. But also, according to Stephen and a bunch of other leaders on life and how to flourish in life, they say that there are 4 most important areas of every human being's life. And these 4 areas need to be on everyone's "this is the most important thing in my life" list. So write these down if you didn't do so already. The first one is your physical health. So this is rest, sleep, nutrition, and exercise. This should be an area in all of our lives. The next one is your social and emotional health. This is your relationships, your friendships, your family. This is the internal climate of your heart, your emotions, and your thoughts. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi. Sorry, I'm really
I love that you're there. That's so awesome. See, even when your kids are older, you still stumble in. It's awesome.
Hey, I got a 4-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, just so you can come back to home group, right? That's the only reason. Re-up. All right. The next thing on that list should be your mental or intellectual health. This is making sure that you're always a learner. You're stimulating your mind all the time. This could be through reading, taking a class, or listening to a podcast, or putting yourself around people that think differently than you do so that you can stretch your mind more. And then the last one is your spiritual health, and this is your compass or your trellis. This answers the questions of why am I on this earth and for what purpose? For a person of faith, this is perhaps easier to answer, but we all need to wrestle with this. So this is like answering the question, what's my end game? Like, how do I know that I've made it? Like, what does success look like at the end? And like, what's the point of all this? And so I would encourage you to spend time in each of these areas at least once a week. And let me just emphasize this as a mom with young kids. Even though life is full and we're tired, we need to do what we can to fight to prioritize these areas, even if it's just 10 minutes a week for now. So right now in your life, your mom role is like if this was the pie of your life, it's like this, I can't even make the motion. It's like all of it, right? But maybe just for now, like the 4 areas I just mentioned always needs to be a slice of your pie, but maybe right now it's just a little more narrow, but I would encourage you to take a step. So this, like I said, could be 10 minutes a week for now, and then as your kids get older, when you're kind of like my life stage or just a step ahead, you will find you'll have more time, and I would encourage you to start prioritizing more time in these areas. And what's awesome is that right now we are practicing all of those areas at once. Isn't that awesome? And for the most part, as much as we can, we want to overlap these areas. So when you go on a walk with a friend, you're getting your exercise and you're also growing in your social and emotional health, which is awesome. But here at home group right now, you're resting, right? You put your kids in childcare. You're socially stretched. We're talking about what you're going to, we're talking about your spiritual health right now, because we just talked about what does my life look like and why. And then we are being stimulated, hopefully, intellectually, you're being stimulated. Get the lady off the stage, and I'm falling asleep. But that's good, you can sleep, you need your sleep. I'm all about it. All right, we're going to funnel to the next step. Any questions that I can answer for that area? Okay. And in case I didn't make it clear before, this is something that I did in my life, and I've done it. I do it over and over again. I do it every year. And this is literally what I do on the whiteboard. And I have to list everything out. These are my first things. This is where I'm going. And then this is exactly what I do. Okay, so the next step in the funnel. This is where we take into account the unique person that you are. And I loved hearing Sarah last week. I was just like, girl, I'm gonna be like you. She was awesome. I know that I'm way more boring than she was, but I was like fully engaged. But she talked about this and it was so awesome. So flip your paper over and look at the back, and we're gonna think, I want you just to give you a little bit of time to think about who you are. Like who you really are deep down inside of you, that person that has always been there since you were a little girl. What makes you unique, and what are you particularly good at? And this is fun to think about. It's also challenging because as women, we tend to think about other people before ourselves, but this is a good time to just sit and like, what am I good at? And Jessie Oster, who's here, right here, she told me about this wise speaker that she got to hear, and she talked about the golden thread in your life. And when Jessie was relaying this information, I was just like eating it up, like, yes. And she said that your golden thread is something that supersedes your current circumstances, something that has always been a part of you. And so she suggested a way to kind of think about this is look through snapshots throughout your life and think about times where you have had success, or people were like, man, you really stood out in that moment. Or times in your life where you remember being present. You're like, I was full send in that moment and I willed it. So just like think about times in your life where that happened and what were the elements that were included in that. And that will help you kind of arrive at like, what's your golden thread? What has always been a part of you throughout your life? And once you begin to understand this, you realize that what you want to do is you want to align your golden thread with your compass or your trellis. So that goes along with it. It is infused with it. You want to have that element always to be a part of your life. And so when I spent time pondering this, I probably have pondered this for the last 6 years, and I feel like I'm finally kind of getting to what it really is. But I think that my golden thread, and hopefully my friends in here agree with that. Off your rock. My golden thread would be anything to do with guiding people towards their purpose. That's like my favorite thing. And cheering them on as they go. So I think that my real name is encourager of people. Like that's why I'm here on this earth. And also some other things that I think have been consistent in my life are elements of creativity, challenge, and fun. Like that's like, sign me up. It's like paintball, sign me up. That sounds awesome, and I love getting splattered in my face. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few moments to just kind of jot down any initial thoughts, and this might be something that you just kind of think about through the next week or just chat with your friends with. Probably should turn on music so you don't have to hear all the kids. I like crackers. I'll give you a few more moments. Maybe I'll be techie and grab an iPad and turn on music. Unless, maybe Jen should. So I'll just breakfast. That's not my golden thread. Technology. Maybe turn it down just a little bit. Is there like a chiller playlist? I mean, that gets you going. Yes. I hope you're thinking about high school when you had your like moment of glory. All right. I see most pens around. Okay. All right. How does that feel? How does it feel doing that? Does that feel good? Maybe raise your hand if you're like, that felt awesome. Nice. Okay. Maybe you're like, I've never done that before. It felt a little weird. Okay. What about just like that sucked? I don't really like thinking about myself.
All right. What you do with like your initial thoughts are not so glamorous and glorious. And I'm like I'm kind of there and I'm a giver. I'm a giver. Like I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
it's like your first reaction is not so good.
Yeah. Then, Jenny was asking, what if your first thought about yourself wasn't so good or glamorous, and you're like, I got nothing. I feel like it's the same moment when after you've had a kid and someone says, let's go to dinner. Where do you want to go to dinner? You're like, I don't know. Like, I haven't thought about myself or other people feeding me forever, and you just like draw a blank and you're like, something my life. Like, I feel like it's a similar moment. So I would say, if there was a negative initial thought, you tell that thought, you suck, get out of there. That is not true. If you had a thought like, I didn't think of anything, I drew a blank, and that thought tells you that you suck, then you say goodbye, and you say, I do have something unique about me. I have purpose, and I have a gift, and I'm going to give it time to come to me, and it just needs to be unfolded. Does that make sense? Like I said, I've been working on this for for 6 years, so it might not come right away, and that's okay, and that's good, and that it gives you a chance to just let it kind of showcase itself, and it'll start spotlighting it for you in just little ways.
So I had the same kind of reaction.
Yeah.
What I did was I thought of memories that were really important, and I kind of tried to figure out what was kind of like a common factor in each one. Like, what do they all have in common? Like, was it a person? Was it family? Was it an activity? Or something that I was feeling? And I wrote that down, and that's kind of sort of helping.
That's perfect. That's exactly right. Probably better answer now. Did you guys hear her? So what she did, she started thinking through times in her life where she did feel accomplished and it felt really good, and then started writing those down, and then started looking at what are the elements that were there that were consistent. That's like perfect. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, so we're going to take our next big step, and we're going to talk about, I'm on the wrong page. Hold on one sec. No, this is right. Okay, so we're going to talk about a calendar. Yeah! This is getting serious. We're getting down there. So flip your thing over to page 3. But before we dive into our calendar, I want to talk about a few more things. So, like I said earlier, everyone is vying for your time and attention. They are in competition for getting the most they can out of you. And so people in organizations or just our world around us is trying to take our time. And they do this, and they'll do anything to fill your calendar and your daily life. And some of them have really good intention, and some just don't. They just want to use you. So in order for us to have a life that goes in the direction that we want it to go in, we must take charge of generally how we spend our time. And in order to prioritize this and do this in our life, we must first fill our calendar. This is key. This is super important. And so this is a concept that leadership expert Carrie Newhoff talks about, and Carissa and I got to go hear him speak in person. I mean, he is across our nation in Canada. He is a leadership expert that a lot of people are looking to right now, and he was an awesome speaker. But he just came out with a book that's called At Your Best, and he explains this really well, and we're going to talk about one of his main ideas a little bit later. But just this idea that we need to fill our calendar before someone else does, and this is how we're going to generally keep our calendar, our life going towards our trail, so the way we want it to go. So, if you look on the back of page 4, you can see I have a blank calendar there on the back. We are going to fill that out today, but before you get there, we're going to look at page 3, but I just want you to see like proof that we're going to do that. It's on there, right? Yeah, okay, all right, good. So first, there's 4 things I want you to consider before you actually start plugging things into your calendar. The first thing is your must schedule items. And these are on the level of the must. So these are things that you are always on your calendar and you have to do them. So as a mom or perhaps as an employee, these are things that you have to do. So it's like your kid's nap, like that's what you do. You got to put your kid down for nap. Your kid's feeding schedule, school schedule, maybe it's a work schedule, maybe it's a volunteer schedule, maybe it's your partner's schedule, but these are your must plug-in items. Does that make sense? Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing. Okay, so then the next thing, any questions about that? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Right. All right, the next thing is energy zones. And I love this. This is what Carrie Newhoff just started talking about in his book, At Your Best. And he says that we all have a green, yellow, and red energy zone that determines how much energy we have in that time of day. And when we consider these energy zones, we can better prioritize our time. So in your green zone, this might be mid-morning, maybe like 8:30 to 11:30 or so. This is when we are our sharpest. We're most creative. We're best at solving problems. So this is when we prioritize the most important areas of our life, like mothering, thinking deep, maybe studying or working in general, or maybe working on our mental health or emotional health. That's when we want to do these bigger picture things, when we are in our green zone. And then there's the yellow zone, and this might be like lunchtime to 6 p.m. It just depends on who you are, but in general, that's what it might be. This is when you're still doing okay, but you're not at your sharpest. So this might be when you interact with others. This would be a great time for a play date. Maybe go for a walk. This is a good time to exercise or to clean your house or to go grocery shopping or meal prep. You know, things that are a little more just like you go at it naturally. Or if you work, like this is a smart time for someone to plan their meetings. Like in the morning, you're like, this is when you're sharp, you're doing your big important things, and in the afternoons more like your meetings. So then there's your red zone, and we all know what this one feels like, right? This is when you're like almost at 0. This is about dinner time to bedtime. You guys are like, I feel like that all the time. You won't at some point once you start sleeping. So this is when it's probably best to just rest, or just do something fun, or just something that's not important. So we want to consider this when we calendar in. And so when we think about our energy zones, we can think about how we want to fill our calendar before someone else does. And so let me give you a scenario of what this might look like. So someone might say, hey, you want to have a play date? And you're like, yes, that's awesome. It's so important to have play dates. I love play dates, and my kids love them too. And you look at your calendar, and it's full this week and next week. And you're like, I'm sorry, my calendar's full, lame. And they're like, oh, maybe look at next month. And you look at your calendar, it's empty. Perfect. Awesome. I'll plug you in at 10 a.m. Cool. We'll have a play date. And then that week comes around, and your week is full again, right? And at 10 a.m., you are like toast. Your energy is low. You are in need of having some mental time, maybe some thinking deep time. Maybe you're just needing to exercise. You're needing to do something that you need to like rest. But you have this play date, and so when you go to this play date, it's not going to be as energizing as it could have been. If you would have put that play date at 3 o'clock, you would have been able to have the time that you needed when you're in your green zone to do the things that you needed to do, so that when you went to the play date later during the day, you would have had way more energy and would have been more present with that person. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can see an example energy zone calendar there. I just kind of plug some things in, what it might look like. Any questions on that? Okay, cool. Okay, the next thing is your season of life, and I think this is so important. When I learned this from another leadership person, actually, this is what he said that he did with his wife. Here's the thing. You do not have to do everything now. I'm going to say it one more time in case it doesn't sneak in. You do not have to do everything now. This is a stupid lie that social media, magazines, and shows like to tell us. But believe me, it's not true, and just turn it off. It will make you discontent with your life, and you'll miss out on what you're getting to do now. And you'll not be present with your time as a mom, especially. What you're doing now as a mother is far more important than all these other things that people and social media and all the things tell you that you should be able to do right now, and you'll miss it. What you're doing right now is raising leaders for the next generation. It's so important. It's so important. You're pouring into these little people that right now take all of your heart, your mind, your calendar, your physical self. They take all of it. And so for this season, you're spending the majority of your time in your mothering role. And so you invest heavy now as a mom, and it pays off later. And so you can just tell those people, those shows, those whatever, not now, but later. And you just tell them that, and just be okay with that. So I would suggest making a list of things that you want to do in your life. Like, that's awesome. You have dreams, you have ambition. Run with that. Just make a list of all those things, whether it's a big accomplishment or something stupid like I want to rock climb. It's dumb, but it's on my list. And then you label each one, what season would be appropriate to do that one. So maybe a season would be when all your kids are in school. Like, that's going to be a new season. When your kids are teenagers, when your kids are adults, when you have more flexibility with your time and your finances, then you could do other goals like travel Europe or whatever. That would be cool. So I would suggest making a list, and it just takes the pressure off doing all those now and focusing in on your kiddos. I'm in a season, like I said, I'm just barely a step ahead of you, and I'm so thankful for the time that I invested in my kids when they were little, because now they can do so much on their own, and I can just sit back and watch them do it. So there you go. Let me see if I forgot anything here. Oh, one thing super important, just make sure that anything from those 4 areas that we talked about, physical health, social, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual health, those are always on your now list. Like, those aren't on your later list. Like, later I will exercise, later I'll do all these things. Like, I know it's hard now as a mom, but they need to be just in there at some point. All right, my last thing that I would suggest is leaving one day open as a day of rest and delight. So this is a crazy thing that won't make sense, that doesn't seem to make sense. I'm missing a whole page. What in the world? So I would suggest leaving a day that's totally open to just rest and delight, to turn off production for a day and just delight in what you have that's before you. And so I would suggest blocking off one day to enjoy your family, enjoy the abundance in your life, to rest, to delight, and have fun.
Harder than it looks.
It's harder than it looks. It's terribly hard in our society right now, but do it. Okay, so we're going to actually start plugging into our calendar. So you can flip this to page 4 as I'm trying to find my next page. There it is. Okay. this right now. So, first of all, you have a blank calendar. It just has the days of the week. I want you to write in every hour that you're awake. So you might, if you get up at 6, you're going to write 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, until you go to sleep. So write in every hour you're awake. This is literally what I do every year. Well, every time my life changes. Alright, you guys got it? Look, I'm only awake 3 hours. No. Okay, or you're awake too many hours. Alright, so now I want you to plug in those must-schedule items that we have talked about. These are things that you have to do, like you have to feed your family, or you have to eat. Your kids need nap time. Maybe this is a school schedule. Plug those in, and there's those markers on the table, which I love. Like the majority of you are using the markers because the markers are awesome and bright and pretty, so that's so cool. But feel free to use those if you need to write in. If you want to use a different color for a different person in your life, maybe to plug in your partner's schedule. Food is always green or whatever. But plug in those each day. It's on there. Those are the things that you just have to do. Like these are things that you have to work around. Does anyone have questions on those or like? Okay. Next thing, I want you to somehow, whatever feels best for you, insert your energy zones. So that could be like putting a bracket on the side or, I don't know, highlighting, but kind of put in general what you think your energy zones are. So if you're a night person, like I know Jessie Furlow, I think she stepped out. She is a night person, and I traveled with her, and like she is on at like 9 at night. She's like, let's go. I'm like, girl, I love it, but I gotta get out of the hot tub and go to sleep. This is crazy. But that's when she gets a ton done. So her energy green zone is more like 7 to midnight. And but so think about your own life.
That's not good. I work.
You guys getting it? Anyone struggling with energy zones? That's like, okay, cool. Awesome. It's a pretty simple concept, but when I heard it, it was like, that makes sense. That's awesome. All right. Now I want you to re-look at your areas that you wrote on your front page, where you wrote out the most important areas of your life, including those 4 areas we talked about. And I want you to plug in when you're going to do those. So this isn't like what exactly you're going to do there, but when in general you're going to do those. And this is what is going to be a game changer to you, for you to have your calendar already full so that you can take charge of your time. Well, it just depends on what it is. So, yeah. So your green zone, if you're like, man, I want to be a person that studying this, or I feel like I'm struggling emotionally, and so that might be a time where you're going to take a bath, or you're going to go see a therapist, or you're going to talk intentionally with a friend or someone. So, yellow zone would be a time to just put on there like house management. I'm a pretty flexible planner, so some people like to be more like, I go to the grocery store on Wednesdays, but I just put house management on Wednesday afternoon from 3 to 4, whatever at that moment I need to be doing for my house management, that's probably what I do, something like that. So I'm going to give you guys, we have plenty of time, so I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. Just sit and think about this, and kind of look at your real calendar, and chat with your friends, and figure this out. And then I'm gonna get up here, and I'm just gonna wrap this up, and then I'll be open for Q&A, but Jen's gonna put on some chill music, because she's awesome. And I'm gonna give you guys time to have fun with this, and really start thinking about how I'm gonna plug in my calendar so that I can tell my life where it's going.